Thanks for joining us. I'm Noreen Turyn. I'm here live on the campus of Virginia Tech, where we are marking a very somber anniversary all weekend long. April 16th, 2007 is a date that anyone associated here with this campus, anyone in our region for that matter, will never forget. The day a gunman came onto this campus and took 32 lives. We have team coverage tonight looking back on that day and looking forward to how this campus has grown and healed in the last 10 years. This date, this massacre, still stands as the worst school shooting in U.S. history, with 32 people killed. 5 years later, a gunman killed 27 people at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. The other most notable school shooting in U.S. history at Columbine High School in 1999 left 13 dead and 21 injured.
It's still so fresh, and I mean, we're still trying to I don't know if we'll ever understand the ramifications of all this.
That is a Virginia Tech student the day after the shootings, talking about the impact on what happened on this campus that day. 10 years since that tragic day, there are several new security measures that campuses, both here on this campus and across the country, have put into place to keep the campus community safe. And ABC 13's Chris Hoffman joins us now live. My co-anchor at the time, Len Stevens, got called in earlier that day and sent immediately here to the campus of Virginia Tech. I sat down and talked to him about his memories of April 16th. 33 people are dead after what's being called the biggest shooting rampage in U.S. history.
My role then was as field anchor.
Len Stevens has a vivid memory of that horrible day 10 years ago. Len Stevens joins us now. Len, you've been at the press conferences today where they tried to have some of these answers.
Yeah, and not only questions here, Noreen, but from some of the parents who were talking about this downright anger.
And we played this snippet of a woman, a mother, who had driven, I think, many hours to get to Virginia Tech to hug her child and make sure that her child was okay. And I remember she was livid. She was livid at the university's administration for not doing more to protect the students.
This university needs to answer. Why wasn't there sirens? Why couldn't they alert these kids?
Initially, police thought they already had their suspect in custody for the first shootings in the dorm.
So they thought there was no more threat. As it turned out, of course, there was a very large threat, and Sung-Hui Jo actually left the campus and then came back. He mailed his manifesto, and then that's when the real tragic situation, all loss of life is tragic, but that's when the Norris Hall situation happened.
Information was changing rapidly. First, it was 2 students, then 10. Then at the next press conference,
the chief of police looked over and said, "Do you want to answer that?" And he said, "It's more than 20." And you could hear an audible gasp in the room.
Until finally word 32 had been killed at the hands of Sung-Hui Jo.
They're like barricaded against the door like this, like real down low with like tables and like everything there.
But then came numerous stories of courage and heroism.
I'm trying to remember the name. Was it Librescu, who had survived a Nazi concentration camp as a Jew, and his class was threatened, and he gave his life to protect his students.
As trying a day it was for the parents, school officials, and police, Len says it took its toll on reporters as well.
I was standing next to another person reporting live who broke down on the air.
And after he ended that night, he says he was finally able to release his emotions as well.
This community has been wounded very, very deeply. It's going to take a very long time to get over it. I'm Len Stevens reporting live in Blacksburg. Thank you for watching the Night Team.
And I've got to tell you, being here on campus is honestly stirring up some pretty raw emotions for me as well. Len, by the way, is now the director of external communications here at Liberty University.
I definitely think somebody put their hand over top of this basement and saved us.
Stories of survival and heartbreak. A year ago, this community in Appomattox County saw a very rare February tornado destroy their homes. Tonight, we look back and forward to see how the recovery process is going.
It makes you feel good, and I like to think if we were ever put in the circumstance these people are, then they do the same for us.
Team coverage of the tornado 1 year later continues right now on ABC 13 News at 6. Thank you for joining us for our special live coverage on the anniversary of the Appomattox tornado 1 year ago tomorrow. I'm Noreen Turyn, live in Evergreen, the area that saw the most damage from this storm.
In our Lynchburg studio, I'll be catching you up on the other news of the day.
We also have Katie Brooke live in Appomattox. She spoke to the widow of the one person who died in the storm. And later on, we're going to have Marissa Parra join me here. Let's take a look at the damage that this storm did. It hit 1 year ago tomorrow, as I said, February 24th. That EF3 storm killed one person and injured several others. At least 100 structures had damage in a 13-mile stretch along Route 460 and here in Evergreen. Gleaning for the World, as you know, headed up the efforts for fundraising and getting supplies to the many people affected by this. FEMA denied the Commonwealth's request for funding for the families here, but this community is strong and is making it through. Those who have lost their homes now have hope. The county had more than 300 total cases of damage in one form or another. Now those who had no insurance or who were underinsured, the rebuilding is in full swing. Since April, the long-term recovery group tells me they have had 76 volunteer groups with 969 registered volunteers putting in more than 16,000 hours, volunteer hours of work here in this community. And right now there are still 16 open cases of families who still need help. The county just got approved a nearly $880,000 grant, community development block grant. And so that is going to be used to help those 16 families rebuild. One man, as I said, lost his life when the tornado blew through this house. It threw him more than 400 yards away from his home. ABC 13's Katie Brooke is standing at the spot where authorities found 78-year-old Keith Harris after close to 8 hours of searching. Katie?
Bought this dog back in December to celebrate how far they've come since that tornado hit. A big sign of recovery.
Yeah, there's so much resilience in the members of this community. It's great to see. All right, we're going to head back now to the studio and George Flickinger to explain a little bit about how this tornado could cause so much damage. George? All right, George, and I am here at Evergreen Baptist Church where you can see a lot of people outside. There are many, many more gathered inside right now for fellowship as they commemorate the 1 year anniversary of the tornado. I want to give you a few quick facts about the recovery efforts. The Appomattox Long-Term Recovery Group tells me they have so far given furniture to 11 families. They've done at least 35 debris removals, removed stumps from 63 places, and they say they assisted anywhere from 30 to 50 homes with repair or rebuild in some form or fashion. Though tonight they are inside, as I mentioned, celebrating their resilience as a community. And if you want to come on over here, Valencia Jones has been inside the fellowship portion of tonight's event. I got a little peek in there myself. There's a very good crowd sitting down and eating dinner. Tell me what you were in there for about an hour right now so far.
Yes, we got there about actually right when it all started. And I tell you what, this is a true testament to what community means.
See, that's great. I know you're going to go back inside, hear some stories, and there is a service that starts at 7 for the community to come together and help heal. Thank you, Valencia. And a reminder that you can get any of our Appomattox coverage stories anytime on our ABC 13 News app. You could just download it to your phone if you don't have it already. And we're going to be back later with more on this Appomattox tornado anniversary. But right now, let's head it back to Mark Spain. They are in the air, and so we will have our camera ready when he gets overhead and touches down. This procession here at Liberty University has been going on for an hour so far. And I believe we have about an hour longer to go because the commencement ceremony itself was set to start at 10 o'clock. The VIPs, I believe, are on the other side of the pool camera. If you want to pan over really quickly, I can explain a little bit where the center cameras are there. That is the pool camera. NBC News got the pool, and they will be feeding it to all the networks. No matter where the president is, the networks follow. There is, of course, the White House pool, media pool. And so wherever the president speaks, it's a big to-do for the media as well. So they are the pool camera in the center, as well as Liberty University's own cameras set up to do their own production here. They've quite the video production department here at Liberty University.
Noreen, we begin with you. What is the energy like there tonight?
Well, right now the energy is a whole lot of media because nobody else is in here but media, and we can pan over. You see the large amount of media here. I feel like the media is going to take up more room in this small space than the party supporters may take up. They come in at around 7:30, but I do have one very big party supporter with me right now. Governor McAuliffe is here to cheer on the Northam campaign and all the candidates on the state ticket. And Governor, going into tonight, how do you feel so far?
Well, we're very encouraged by the early numbers.
Oh my goodness, wait just a second. This could be someone I know. Should I answer it? I don't know about you, but I have had just about enough of this. I'm talking about those annoying calls that you get that they look like they're from local numbers, but they're not. Well, it's called spoofing. And when I posted it on my Facebook page, my frustration with this practice, it just opened up the floodgates. You can see all the comments I got so frustrated with this practice. So I went to the FCC to ask them face to face what they're doing about it. Some of you have asked us for an update after my water testing report found fecal coliform bacteria at the spray ground at Lynchburg's Riverside Park. My report last month led Lynchburg Parks and Rec to install a larger chlorinator there, something they had been considering. I got to look at the new system today. It is larger than the old one, and the chlorine test today showed the chlorine level was well above the minimum requirement.
So the system's designed originally for 50 to 80 bathers, but this is a very popular place to come and hang out during the summer, especially when it becomes really hot. And so the old one was designed with those old specs in mind. And so now that we have a lot more people here, we want to make sure that, that we're keeping up with that kind of bather load.
I also took another water sample there yesterday and got the results today. It showed 0 bacteria, a clean bill of health. Now, despite the new chlorinator, Trevor Freitas there still urges parents to make sure if your children are in diapers that they are wearing plastic pants. And if any of you have been sick, he says don't go in the water for 48 hours after you're better for the safety of everyone else. The Lynchburg fire chief is looking back at his more than 4 decades with the department. We first told you yesterday that Chief Brad Ferguson is retiring at the end of the year. Ferguson says he has seen dramatic changes over the years, going from rubber gear to upgraded technology. He says he remembers a time when firemen only put out fires. Now, medical emergencies are 90% of what they do. Ferguson says the decision is bittersweet and says he knows he couldn't stay forever. Ferguson says he'll turn 65 in December, and that's long enough. The Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History is commemorating the death of a historical figure. The museum says Major Sutherland was the most important businessman in Danville in the middle of the 19th century. He lived in the home that is now the Danville Museum of History and Fine Art. Every other year, they commemorate Major Sutherland's death by putting black curtains on all the mirrors, dimming the lighting, and showing what the mourning process was like in the late 1800s. The exhibit includes traditional mourning garb and jewelry. Danville's newest mode of transportation is now operational. The main line trolley is trucking all along the streets of Danville right now. ABC 13's Karen Pinto is along for the ride, one of the first rides. She joins us live now from that trolley. Karen, you've been seeing the city?
That is right, Noreen.
In case you haven't heard, you have 2 chances to get really rich this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to happen. ABC 13's Will Stafford is live tonight with why you really want to buy your tickets in the next few hours.
That's right, guys. You want to buy them in the next 2 hours?
Love the bullpen dance-offs. That's great. I mean, when you're sitting around doing nothing, you got to wait out a rain delay. Why not have some fun?
Yeah, we would never have an opportunity to do anything like that because we're always doing something.
I would do it every commercial, Craig. Don't try to fool them.
Oh, if they only knew what we did.
George has a look ahead to the weekend when we come back. Many of us spend our weekends cooling off in our favorite swimming holes, but have you ever really thought about what you're swimming in? In an ABC 13 exclusive investigation, I took samples in popular swimming areas all around our region, rivers, lakes, and pools, to find out what's in the water. You might be shocked at what we found. First stop, the James River at Monacan Park. You can't swim from the shore here, but the James is a popular place to take a dip off your boat on a hot summer day. Next stop, the dock by the Leesville Lake Dam. A family showed up to swim while we were there. We'll see how this water checks out. Then to Smith Mountain Lake State Park. Families had flocked to the park on this warm and sunny day. I went a few feet in to collect a sample. In Danville, Kelsey Metzger got a sample of the Dan River by the boat launch area. At Splash Valley in Roanoke County, oddly enough, a fecal accident outside forced everyone inside, packed with people. Annie Anderson dipped in a bottle to see what we'll find.
The time is now 4 o'clock and time for an adult swim.
I also took samples at Miller Park Pool in Lynchburg and even a baby pool there. And hit the spray ground at Riverside Park, where it was teeming with children frolicking in the fountains.
It's got more E. coli.
Dr. Tom Shahady, environmental science professor at Lynchburg College, did the testing for us, focusing specifically on fecal coliform bacteria and E. coli.
These are not disease organisms, but the presence of these suggests there are disease organisms in the water, and that concerns us.
So, what did we find?
This is the pool, indoor pool. The Splash Valley indoor pool.
This is Splash Valley?
So you can see there's nothing there at all. And the chlorinated water typically has none. Yep, and so this one's absolutely zero.
The same results for both pools we tested at Miller Park. But then, a surprise.
The spray ground, the Riverside Park spray ground.
Oh, that's just here in, ooh.
I know. That was concerning. But it's only fecal, there's no E. coli.
Even though it's chlorinated, that indicates fecal matter is present.
That's a lot of bacteria. Because look, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would want my kids to be in. I wouldn't want them to be in here.
I shared the results with Lynchburg Parks and Recreation. They say they will now start testing for bacteria and examine whether they need to limit the amount of people or get a larger holding tank. This is the James River at Monacan Park?
Mm-hmm. So there's another one that I would be concerned with. That's a lot of bacteria.
The James River was on the high end, but still within the state limits for E. coli, as were the Dan River and Leesville Lake at the dam. But the worst result of all came at Smith Mountain Lake State Park. On that day, my sample tested 10 times higher than the state's limit for E. coli bacteria.
That is so high and that is so contaminated, I would not get in that water. I wouldn't want to be in that water.
Dr. Shahady says he immediately reported the results to the Smith Mountain Lake Association. But the man in charge of water quality says the information never got to him. He agreed to me, though, that result was very bad, but told me the association tests the park and other parts of the lake every 2 weeks all summer. The results were so concerning out here at the park that Dr. Shahady suggested we test it again, so we came back out here to get another sample. So what did our second test show?
You can see that one's and a lot of times we get even a richer yellow. That's concerning because that's a much darker, concerning sample that you gave me, yeah.
Okay, now is this as concerning as the first test?
I'm about to find out. No, not at all. It's 9 and 2, so it's nowhere nearly as bad.
We also took another sample at the spray ground. The fecal coliform had dropped significantly, but it wasn't zero like the other chlorinated pools.
Just random samples don't really mean much from a health standpoint.
Jim Bowles, the environmental health manager with the Lynchburg Health Department, wouldn't weigh in on my results. As he explains, one test doesn't necessarily tell the whole story.
You may have a sample that's great one day, but by the time you get those results, the area is polluted, and vice versa.
But he does say you assume certain health risks no matter where you swim.
One of the things that we would advise people is to swim only at designated swimming areas because most of the time they're chosen because there's no obvious source of pollution nearby that could cause problems.
However, people themselves could be the source. So what do our tests tell you?
If people ask, am I going to get sick if I swim in that?
Who knows?
Who knows? But there's a greater risk when we've got high bacteria counts like we're seeing.
I also called the Department of Conservation and Recreation, which is responsible for water quality at the state park. They told me experts test the park once a month with specific guidelines. They say my one test isn't evidence enough, but they would close the beach if they ever felt it was necessary. As far as the spray ground, as a result of my findings, I asked them again today. Lynchburg Parks and Recreation now tells me they are installing a larger chlorinator this week to better handle the high bather load there. Now, as far as your health, well, the most common illness around here would be gastrointestinal, causing diarrhea, or infections due to open wounds. So some words of wisdom from the health department: don't swim in natural waters for a few days after a heavy rainfall, as the runoff and sediment carry pollutants. Don't go in with open cuts or wounds. You could get an infection. Always shower after you swim. And of course, don't swallow the water. And for you parents,
if you got a kid that's in diapers, they need to have waterproof plastic pants on when they go into a swimming pool or a wading pool or anything else. And that's not to protect that child, is to protect the other children.
all of us. Don't swim if you are having intestinal issues. You could just end up ruining it for everyone. Some of you have asked us for an update after my water testing report found fecal coliform bacteria at the spray ground at Lynchburg's Riverside Park. My report last month led Lynchburg Parks and Rec to install a larger chlorinator there, something they had been considering. I got to look at the new system today. It is larger than the old one, and the chlorine test today showed the chlorine level was well above the minimum requirement.
So the system's designed originally for 50 to 80 bathers, but this is a very popular place to come and hang out during the summer, especially when it becomes really hot. And so the old one was designed with those old specs in mind. And so now that we have a lot more people here, we want to make sure that, that we're keeping up with that kind of bather load.
I also took another water sample there yesterday and got the results today. It showed 0 bacteria, a clean bill of health. Now, despite the new chlorinator, Trevor Freitas there still urges parents to make sure if your children are in diapers that they are wearing plastic pants. And if any of you have been sick, he says don't go in the water for 48 hours after you're better for the safety of everyone else. Oh my goodness, wait just a second. This could be someone I know. Should I answer it? I don't know about you, but I have had just about enough of this. I'm talking about those annoying calls that you get that they look like they're from local numbers, but they're not. Well, it's called spoofing. And when I posted it on my Facebook page, my frustration with this practice, it just opened up the floodgates. You can see all the comments I got so frustrated with this practice. So I went to the FCC to ask them face to face what they're doing about it.
Hello. Hi, how are you today? This is Elizabeth with the Resort Rewards Center. Anyway, my name is Emily, and I'm calling because you stayed at one of our resorts in the past.
Judy Bonsall gets these calls on a regular basis. Have you ever stayed at one of Emily's resorts?
No, I've never stayed at a resort. We stick to plain old hotels.
Judy's not alone. Spoofing is the #1 consumer complaint to the Federal Communications Commission. Those are the rapid-fire automated robocalls using someone else's phone numbers to mask who they really are.
Congratulations on your excellent...
Spoofing itself is not illegal. One example, the robocalls you get from your child's school. They're usually coming from a legitimate robocall company that spoofs the school system's number. But others are, especially when you don't know the person on the other end of the call.
It's irritating because, you know, if you're at work and you're answering call in the middle of something, you know, 3 times a day.
Tracy Turner has been getting these calls for years. She's now noticed the robocallers are getting smarter.
They were starting out with another number. And then all of a sudden they started using the 610 number, the local numbers.
That's called neighbor spoofing, trying to make you think the call is from someone you know. In some cases, the number is someone you know, but the person on the other end is not.
Yeah, I've had 2 or 3 in the past couple of months.
Judy Bonsall has even had her own number spoofed.
People have said, "Did you just call me?" And at first I thought, well, maybe somebody misdialed or something and called me back. But they're all using the callback option, so they can't misdial.
So I checked out some of the calls I've received.
Hello.
Hi, this is Noreen Turyn from Channel 13. How are you?
All right.
I am calling because I have a missed call from you to my phone number. Did you ever call me?
No.
Okay. That's what I thought. I called another.
You have reached Second Mile Ministry of Beulah Baptist Church.
So what's being done about these annoying calls? I went straight to the FCC to find out why these calls don't seem to be going away.
Unfortunately, it's never been easier and never been cheaper for scammers to spoof numbers.
Patrick Weber is the Chief of Consumer and Governmental Affairs. He says the FCC receives more than 200,000 illegal robocall and spoofing complaints a year. And you can imagine all the people who aren't reporting them, how many
That's right.
more the real
There are,
number is.
yes, I'm sure there are many more.
Are you currently on Medicare?
The Truth in Caller ID Act says spoofed calls are illegal when they're trying to defraud, cause harm, or obtain anything of value.
We find that when companies are spoofing numbers, not using their real number or not using their real business name or their names, they're generally looking to steal money from you.
Now the FCC says it's cracking down on these scammers like never before. They have a threefold plan of attack: working with phone companies on call blocking technology, working with the industry on caller authentication for your caller ID so you'll know who's really calling, and going after the robocallers themselves, proposing more than $200 million in fines just this year.
Our enforcement actions, our strict enforcement actions, are having an impact on illegal robocallers, but we will always continue to do more.
As for Judy Bonsall, relief can't come soon enough, especially when she thinks about those who do get suckered in.
I mean, elderly people probably don't even realize that it's a robocall or a scam, and then they lose their life savings in a heartbeat.
That IRS is filing a lawsuit against you. To get more information about this case file.
The FCC's #1 piece of advice: if you don't recognize the number that's calling you, do not answer. So they think it's a non-working number. Legit folks will leave you a message. For more advice, plus information on apps or services that can help you block unwanted calls, check out my article on our website and app.
Noreen, we begin with you. What is the energy like there tonight?
Well, right now the energy is a whole lot of media because nobody else is in here but media, and we can pan over. You see the large amount of media here. I feel like the media is going to take up more room in this small space than the party supporters may take up. They come in at around 7:30, but I do have one very big party supporter with me right now. Governor McAuliffe is here to cheer on the Northam campaign and all the candidates on the state ticket. And Governor, going into tonight, how do you feel so far?
Well, we're very encouraged by the early numbers. You look at Fairfax County, Arlington, those numbers are way up, but we got a lot of great important races like Chris Hurst's race, the House of Delegates. It's going to be a good night tonight. People have been happy with the last 4 years. We've got unemployment with the second lowest of any major state in America, record jobs, record investment in education. So tonight is a restoration of what we've been able to do, and more importantly, we need Ralph in there to have a continuation of these great policies.
A lot of eyes on this race, considering it a referendum on the Trump campaign. Do you see it as that?
Well, you know, the president didn't ever come in and campaign for Ed Gillespie, which I always found fascinating. He's now doing robocalls from over there in Asia. But it's not about Trump, it's about where do we go here in Virginia. You know, as I say, people are happy today, but we got to continue to work to grow the new Virginia economy. You know, we're leading the nation today on cyber jobs, data jobs, unmanned systems. We've worked hard to do it, and we can't go backwards. I've had to veto 120 very socially divisive bills. I'm just telling you, you can't grow an economy when you're putting walls up around your state. So we can't go back. We got to go forward. Everybody in Virginia deserves a quality education. We put $1 billion into K-12, the largest investment ever. Every child, no matter where you are, deserves a great education to match all those great jobs that we have in Virginia today.
All right. Governor, thank you so much
Just
for
make
joining
sure
us.
everybody votes.
Get out and vote. Message from the governor there. So we will be here live all evening for you, as will Chris Hoffman, who is now over in the Gillespie campaign in Richmond. Chris? Well, Chris, I am here in Fairfax at the George Mason University Student Center called The Hub. It's a pretty small space we have here for the supporters of Northam. And there over is the podium over here, where there will either be an acceptance speech or a concession speech from Ralph Northam. And this could actually end up being a split ticket. It could be a Republican governor, Democratic lieutenant governor, vice versa. It's anybody's guess. The only people here right now are the media. However, Governor McAuliffe has been making the rounds. I don't see him at the moment, but he's been making the rounds with the media. And he told me earlier turnout has been very good in the state of Virginia. This has been a very tight race in the polls. Most of the polls have had Northam in the lead by a small amount. The most recent one did have him with a larger lead. So time will tell whether this will be a celebratory place or a place of reflection night. Back to you.
Noreen Turyn joins us live with what's going on there.
Right now, Danner, it's mostly just media, although Governor McAuliffe is here. He's been making his rounds. You can see him over there. He's been talking to the various media. I spoke to him live at 5 o'clock. A lot of national media are here tonight because this is being watched nationally. If you take a look up there at the large amount of media here, this is being called a referendum on the Trump presidency, a test of his influence or clout. So all eyes are watching whether the Democrats are able to take this race or whether the Republicans take it, and therefore some would say that is a test of the Trump presidency. Northam has worked very hard to align the Gillespie campaign with the Trump presidency, noting some unfavorable polls from the public. And the president has been tweeting his support for Gillespie today. For Ralph Northam, President Obama held a rally for him, so he has some big support too. Tonight we will see. It's been a very close race with the polls. We'll see how this shakes out and whether on that podium behind me, whether the three Democrats are going to be giving victory speeches or concession speeches this evening. Of course, the rest of the people won't be here until about 7:30. That's when the event begins. We will be here all night covering this race with the election coverage you can count on. Now back to you, Danner and Mark.